Kragg's been a consistent threat in the Rivals 2 metagame since his launch in the earliest betas. He's traveled far across the tier list in his time, ranging from being a crazy good top tier to being a bit more mellowed out now. But there's one thing he's never been, which is unpopular. It's not uncommon to see high bracket placements from Kragg players, since he has a huge amount of fans and top players to boot. His low skill floor makes him a great character for new players to the game, while his high skill ceiling and player expression make him a great choice for anyone looking to compete at the top levels. Before we break down his matchups, I want to give a big shout out to Zeus the Goose for helping me with the matchup chart you'll see in today's video. Zeus is the top Kragg player who recently placed second in the Hungry Games and took Marlon's Arcane to a tight Game 9. He streams all his bracket runs and posts regularly to YouTube, so I recommend checking him out. All his info is linked below in the description. With that out of the way though, let's go ahead and kick off the matchup chart. We'll start with the easiest matchups and work our way up to the hardest and trickiest ones to navigate. To kick us off, sadly, we have everyone's favorite friend, Edelus. This is the only +2 on our list, since truthfully, Edelus is really easy to combo, ledge guard, and set up kill confirms on. Kragg's moves, like most heavies, are generally pretty sizable. However, Edelus doesn't really have the same privilege. This allows Kragg to outpoke and outscrap Edelus in most situations. This combined with Kragg's great kill power and variety of spikes makes Edelus's normally long-lasting stocks melt away. Edelus isn't all hopeless in this matchup though. His icicles can punish even the carefulest of recoveries, and his long juggles can open up Kragg to force rough landings. However, Kragg's just a hair too consistent with his punishes, which is something Edelus is sadly lacking right now. This matchup will probably change over time, since players are only just now using an up-to-date version of Edelus, so as his meta develops, so will this matchup chart. But for now, Edelus is chillin' in +2. Moving on to our +1 category, we have Loxodon. Lox suffers from similar problems to Edelus in this matchup. However, instead of having stubby moves that get outpoked, he has slower frame data that gets outmashed. His linear recovery is also super vulnerable to tools like Kragg down air and down special, as well as a simple rock toss that can force Lox to burn valuable resources, like his down B or jump off stage. His size also makes him a prime candidate for juggling the rock, as well as nair and up air. Lox still isn't completely up a creek in this matchup, however, since his ledge trapping can be pretty brutal and his big axe can disrupt neutral. However, Kragg has a bit easier of a time killing overall, as well as being slightly quicker, making him a lot more consistent and the winner of this matchup. One kinda cheesy tip I have that works really well on a lot of Lox players that don't have a full grasp on their recovery options is using Pillar while Loxodon is deep off stage to force them to use side B and then kinda flounder around. The proper counterplay for a Loxodon player to beat this wall is to side B or down B to it, break the Pillar with an aerial, and then recover. But normally by the time you've done that, Kragg's in a prime position to get an easy spike. Our other +1 for this list is Force Burn. Force is a really strong fighter, but sadly for him, his kit doesn't match up the best in the Kragg. Sure, he can combo Kragg pretty well, but being on the slower end of the cast means that Kragg can often outbutton or outcamp him, forcing Force Burn to take risky approaches. This is a big problem for Force, since a lot of the times he wants to be able to force opponents to come to him, which doesn't really happen all too much in this matchup. Tools like Kragg Rock and Rock Shards, as well as Pillar and Kragg's Down B, are all great tools to poke at the smoke and clone, which can stop Force Burn from setting up to begin with, or ruin his recovery. As said earlier, Force is a really strong fighter, so as the Kragg player, you do gotta be really careful when getting off ledge and picking where you want to choose to poke it for as neutral. But overall, it's a solid winning matchup. Before we move on to the even portion of our tier list, I'd just like to take a quick second to tell you about an upcoming event I'll be hosting here on the channel. The Last Talk Creators Cup will be a round-robin bracket hosted here, and on a handful of your other favorite Rivals content creators channels and streams. The first player we'll be announcing for this event is Thornork, a top Raster player and Twitch streamer. I linked their socials below, and we'll be announcing a new creator daily up until the event on our Twitter. You won't want to miss it. The action's all happening March 21st, with $50 going towards the winner's choice of a charity, funded by you all using code LASTTalkInGame, as well as a generous sponsor. Thanks as always for the support, and let's get back to the list. To kick off our even tier, we have Zetterburn. Zetter's super quick and loves to press lots of buttons all over Kragg. However, Kragg's generous hitboxes and not so slow frame data allow him to contest Zetter's neutral, and his juggling can keep Zetter in the air a bit longer than Zetter would normally prefer. Both characters can ledge guard each other pretty hard. However, Kragg does have some of the best tools tailored to keep Zetter low below the stage when it matters most. Overall, this matchup is super back and forth, and is really determined based on which character can push their advantage harder and offstage further. If you're a Kragg player playing this matchup, be sure to be super careful to mix up your recoveries, since just a few hits from Zetter can burn up a stock. Our second even matchup is Raster. Raster's pretty similar to Zetter in the fact that he can cover and threaten a lot of Kragg's options offstage. However, his lightweight makes him vulnerable to early kill confirms, and unlike Zetter, his moves aren't quite as mashy. But they are really large, meaning that Kragg can't really rely on outpoking Raster in this matchup, but he can kind of outbutton him. Kragg's Bear and Up Tilt are both great tools for calling out jump-ins and starting combos, and Rock can't be parried in the air, so using it to call out overly aggressive movement is the way to go. This matchup, however, can feel a little unfun as Kragg, especially when you're getting juggled, since you don't have the best get-off-me tools in every scenario. If you find yourself stuck in these spots a lot, be sure to play disadvantage slow and to not overextend, or you might find yourself right back in another combo. This idea can apply to neutral and your recovery as well, since overextending or being too aggressive can put you in a pretty bad place, with how hard Raster is able to push advantage on Kragg, especially offstage. Our third and final even matchup is Clarin. Clarin's known to force other characters to play her game, due to her huge sword and strong kill confirms. However, Kragg's able to challenge her, both with his large and fast buttons, and his heavy weight, which allows him to outlive some of Clarin's normal kill confirms, giving her a touch of Marthitis if she's not able to play at the top of her game at those kill percents. However, her big sword does allow her to poke Kragg in ways other characters can't. Her juggling tools can also be a big pain for Kragg, and her ability to chase him deep off stage and poke at his recovery can lead to Kragg feeling a bit boomed. If you're a Kragg player having trouble in this matchup, however, the trick I shared earlier to Gimp Loxodon still applies here. If you want to take the mix a step further, you can leave a rock on top of the pillar so it falls onto the Clarin's head after the pillar is broken. It's a nasty Gimp, but it does take a good bit of time to set up. We'll be wrapping up this video with the final few matchups, since Zeus didn't leave me any -2s to talk about today. To kick off this tier, however, we have Rano. Rano's speed and power make him pretty tricky to fight for most characters, but for a character on the slower end of the spectrum movement-wise, it becomes a nightmare. His needles are an incredible tool to poke at Kragg with, and Rano's recovery is pretty hard to halt since he has so many options and fast moves to challenge Kragg with on his way back to the stage. The matchup isn't completely gloom and doom for Kragg, since it's only a -1, but it's definitely one of the harder ones, and forces Kragg to play on his back foot, both in neutral and offstage. I know this isn't a Rano video, but if you are a Rano player and having trouble dealing with Kragg Rock while recovering, remember that you can move your bubble to block it. And if you're a Kragg player, try to keep that in mind and force Rano to spend his bubble early so he won't have it later. Next up, we have Orcane. Orcane's super slippery on the ground, which allows him to skate around Kragg in neutral. His fast buttons pose a challenge to Kragg as well, since normally Kragg's either able to outmash or outwall someone like I mentioned earlier. But, in this matchup, between Orcane's fast moves like Jab and Nair, and disruptive moves like Droplet and Bubbles, Orcane can easily match, if not outdo the pressure that Kragg's used to applying. Orcane is also one of the best characters at edgeguarding Kragg, since his puddles give him unlimited range on his recovery. This lets Orcane go as deep as he wants off stage without any real risk to himself. This is made even scarier for Kragg due to the recent Orcane back air changes, which make the move a lot stronger at killing at higher percents. In the past, Kragg used to be able to tank the move at lower percents due to his heavy weight, but now that the move scales differently, Kragg dies a good bit earlier to it. If you're a Kragg player in this matchup, don't worry, not all hope is lost. Orcane has a hard time getting off the ledge, so you can press away with back air in the corner, and If you can, force him to go to his puddle, so you can crush stocks super early with your forward strong. These benefits don't make the matchup easy at all, but capitalizing on them can get you extra mileage when it matters the most. After Arcane, we have Fleet. Fleet's a big challenge for Kragg. Between the decently sized disjoints, projectiles, and multi-hits are all things that Kragg doesn't want to see coming at him. Her juggles also force Kragg into pretty bad spots, since, as mentioned earlier, he doesn't have the best get-off-me tools or ways to escape. And obviously, Fleet's ledge guarding is a death sentence for Kragg. Not only can she go further out than other fighters with her slow fall, she also has tools like her side B to outpoke him and shut down his recovery routes. But also tools like forward air and nair eat Kragg's valuable resources. Once those are all gone and Fleet has forced Kragg to go low, Fleet can easily poach him with her down air, stealing stocks at any percent. One bonus that Kragg does have going for him currently is that Fleet's not really super dominant in the meta. She's one of the worser fighters in the game, and that's not to say that she's weak, but as a Kragg player, she's probably not someone that you need to worry about, seeing as much as someone like Rano or Zetterburn. His hard-hitting moves can also clean up stocks pretty early here, but that by no means makes the matchup even or winning, so we have it at a loss. Last but not least, we have Maple. Just like the other characters in this tier, her fast buttons and juggling mess Kragg up pretty bad. However, Maple has some of the fastest buttons and best juggling in the game, so the problem's even more glaring here. What makes this matchup even trickier, however, is the presence of Lily, allowing Maple to extend combos and outcamp Kragg, letting her pace the match to how she sees fit. Her tether to Terry also gives her Arcane-like qualities, allowing her to recover from anywhere and take full advantage of Kragg's recovery, and her frankly incredible aerials for pushing players off stage allow her to take early stocks as well. As said earlier though, Kragg can mash backers at the ledge to try and catch Maple with a non-optimal get-up, and take advantage of her weight to kill her early. Some other little annoying points of this matchup that I wasn't able to mention earlier can be seen in Maple's Seed being able to break Kragg's pillar, and Maple being able to low profile Kragg's rock throw, making neutral and recovering as Kragg a lot more challenging. That just about wraps up our matchup chart today. Big thanks again and shout out to Zeus the Goose for helping me out with this one. And thank you all for watching until the end. Let me know what character you'd like for me to cover next, and I'll be posting announcements for the Creator Cup bracket all week. So be sure to follow us on Twitter to get news and updates. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye for now.